Hi everyone, my name is Carol Welsh and I chair the Committee on Career Advancement and Management here at the New York City Bar, and we co-sponsored tonight's program together with the Harvard Law School Law and Arts Initiative, and I'd like to welcome them to the New York City Bar and thank them for putting together this program. I just want to say a word or two about my committee before we get started. My committee sponsors over 25 live panel programs throughout the year on a wide range of career-related issues. We have an upcoming program on Wednesday evening at 6:30 on life outside the law firm, alternative careers for lawyers. On June 16th at 6:30, we have a program on non-practicing roles for lawyers at law schools and universities. On June 22nd at 9 a.m., we have an intensive resume workshop where you can bring a draft resume and leave with a highly edited and honed resume with the help of some experienced career counselors on my committee. And we also oversee a program called the Career Counselor Referral Program, where New York City Bar members can obtain the career counseling services of very experienced career counselors at a significantly reduced rate. And there's information about all the things that I've just mentioned on the City Bar website and some flyers on the table outside. So thank you and enjoy tonight's program, which is called Parenting, Lawyering, and Writing About It in the Age of Having It All. And Teresa Park is your moderator.
Thank you all for coming on a weeknight. Probably many of you have kids of your own at home, so we all recognize what a challenge it is just to get away and do something for yourselves when you have kids at home. I just want to talk a little bit about the Law and Arts Initiative, which is a relatively young program at Harvard Law School that was founded by Amy Gutman and Professor Janet Halley. Amy unfortunately wasn't able to be here tonight, but really to provide kind of a nexus of institutional connections to enable students, faculty, and alumni to pursue and support careers in the arts and entertainment, something that had been sorely lacking when I was a student at the law school and probably when Julie and Amy were students there as well. So we sponsored a number of programs over the years. We had a previous program with James Stewart and Jeffrey Toobin and Adam Cohen of the New York Times here at the New York City Bar Association. And have a number of activities at the law school, including coursework which supports law-related studies in the arts and entertainment as well. Tonight's topic is one which is near and dear to all of us, male and female, I think, but which I think women in particular struggle with in the legal profession and even outside the legal profession mightily. And three women here who've not only had extraordinary careers in the arts and entertainment and in media, have their own takes on having it all, which I think as professional women we all are expected to feel that we have the privilege of having. Afterward, what we're going to do is each of them is going to speak for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then afterwards we're going to open it up for questions. When we open it up for questions, there's a dedicated mic down there, and if you have a question, please line up, ask your question, and also mention to whom you would like to direct your question. We're going to start the evening with Amy Chua, who is the John M. Duff Professor of Law at Yale Law School and author of the sensational New York Times bestselling memoir, Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mother. She's the subject of unprecedented media coverage, including that Time magazine cover story that you guys have all seen. But not only is Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mother a huge bestseller here, but it is also an enormous bestseller abroad in the UK, Germany, and China, and is being translated into 22 or more languages. Prior to entering academics at Yale Law School, she practiced with a firm of Cleary Gottlieb, Steen and Hamilton, and wrote 2 books prior to this one, both of which were New York Times bestsellers. World on Fire, How Exporting Free Market Democracy Breeds Ethnic Hatred and Global Instability, as well as Day of Empire, How Hyperpowers Rise to Global Dominance and Why They Fall, both of which apparently Bill Clinton read and told her about at Davos. He gave her his personal critique on these books. Amy received her AB in 1984 and her JD in 1987, both from Harvard. At Harvard Law School, she was executive editor of the Harvard Law Review. She joined the Yale Law School faculty in 2001. Currently teaches in the areas of contracts, law and development, international business transactions, and law and globalization. She's also a recipient of the Yale Law School's Best Teaching Award and the mother of two girls, famous girls, Sophie and Lulu, who are 15 and 18 now. For more information about Amy and her books, please visit www.amychua.com and her Facebook page, Amy Tiger Mother. And then next up, we have Amy Bazelon, who's a senior editor at Slate. She's a contributing writer at the New York Times Magazine and the Truman Capote Fellow for Creative Writing and Law at Yale Law School. She's currently working on a book about bullying for Random House. Before joining Slate, she worked as an editor and writer at Legal Affairs magazine and as a law clerk on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the First Circuit. She's a graduate of Yale College and Yale Law School. She's a finalist for the 2011 Michael Kelly Journalism Award from the Atlantic Media Group, and she lives in New Haven with her husband and two sons, ages 8 and 11. Probably many of you have followed her articles on Slate, particularly on Double X, which she is an editor of. Julie Buxbaum came all the way from London. She's the author of two critically acclaimed novels, The Opposite of Love and After You, and her writing has also appeared in the New York Times and other publications. Her work has been translated into 20 languages. And The Opposite of Love has been optioned for film by 20th Century Fox, with Anne Hathaway attached to star. Before quitting the law to become a novelist, Ms. Buxbaum was a litigator at a large law firm in both New York and Los Angeles. She's a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania and Harvard Law School, and lives in London with her husband, a former lawyer, and their daughter, who's only 17 months old, and she left her daughter in London with her husband, which was very brave. It's her first time away from her baby, so we gotta support that. She's currently hard at work on her third novel, The Modern Girl's Handbook, and for more information about Julie and her books, you can visit her website at www.juliebuxbaum.com, and without further ado, I'm gonna turn it over to Amy.
Thanks so much, Teresa, for organizing this amazing event with this terrific group of co-panelists, and thank you all for coming this evening. I thought that what I would do is, I haven't given this kind of a talk before, but with these themes, I thought I would just kind of be autobiographical and go chronologically a little bit. And tell you my own story and, the challenges that I faced, the struggles I had, the balance I tried to strike, and then just leave plenty of time for questions from you guys, and open things up for discussion. So I thought I would start at Harvard Law School. To tell you the truth, I was somebody for whom the law was not a great fit. I've always worked hard and, been able to kind of pull it out, but I mostly went to law school because I knew I didn't want to go to medical school. And that was pretty much the only reason I ended up there. So when I got there, it was a little bit of a struggle for me. I was not naturally good at questioning. Cases didn't interest me the same way that it did for other people, I felt. I wasn't naturally good at doctrinal analysis. But I had a great time, absolutely loved Harvard Law School. Some of my best friends are in the audience today. I clerked for a year afterwards, and then I joined the firm of Cleary, Gottlieb, Steen, and Hamilton, as Teresa mentioned. Now, I had a fabulous 3 or 4 years at Cleary, but I have to tell you, they were a little bit unusual. I knew from the moment that I stepped into Cleary, as much as I love the people, I have the best work, I knew that I couldn't stay. I just kind of felt that it just wasn't for me. Hard to explain exactly why, because I had enormous amounts of fun, still very close. I teach international business transactions. Every year I bring 4 or 5 Cleary lawyers back, but I knew that I couldn't stay. So as soon as I arrived, I started working on a novel. And in a way, it made being at the law firm easier, because it took the pressure off. I thought, I'm here sort of temporarily. I didn't have children at the time, so my drill was every morning I'd get up and put in an hour trying to write this novel. I worked on weekends, really enjoyed it. The only problem is I had no plot. I'm not a good novelist. No idea, and it was just a total fail. So I was enjoying myself, and then it was at Cleary, speaking of motherhood, that I had actually 2 pregnancies. The first pregnancy was a bad pregnancy. I was diagnosed with a molar pregnancy, so that meant I had to get blood tests for the whole year. It's like a, I don't know, not a good situation. And then I became pregnant with Sophia, who's my oldest daughter, and I sort of hats off to those of you here who are still practicing. I think it is so, this is a long time ago, I graduated in '87, but looking around me at Cleary, I felt like it was going to be really hard to do the mothering thing and be a corporate lawyer. I did international work, I was traveling all the time to Mexico. I hope that this is, let alone trying to write, books on the side, just working and trying to be a parent. And I hear from my students that maybe things have changed a little bit. I hope so. Love to hear what you guys say. But back then when I started, this is in the 90s, it was tough. I didn't see any role models that seemed to fit for me. In fact, for me, working for the women partners was actually, in a way, the hardest at the time. I hope that's changed. I remember when I was 8 months pregnant, I was, everybody in my family gains 50 pounds every pregnancy, and as for sure somebody's short, that's a lot, and I had terrible backaches. I remember at 4 in the morning, I went to this woman partner with whom I respected enormously as a lawyer, and I said, you know from my reputation, I believe in hard work, not a whiner, but I just had these shooting pains, and I said, you know what, I don't think I can stay here. I just have this terrible backaches. And I was, 8 months pregnant, and I remember she said, "Oh my God, I've been so insensitive." I thought she was going to say, "You should just go home." It was 4 in the morning. She said, "You should just lie on my couch here, and I'll give you a dictaphone, and you can, write your memos through the dictaphone." So I said, I'll just go back to my office. I'm going to be fine, yeah. And there are these funny pressures, because when I was 9 months pregnant, my deal, I was doing the huge Telmex privatization. I still teach it at Yale. Very proud of that transaction, just this global securities deal. It was really fun. And despite me always knowing I wasn't going to stay, we were going to close the deal. I'd worked on it, poured my heart into it. I really felt a lot of ownership. But I was 9 months pregnant. My doctor said, "You don't fly to Mexico City for this. Altitude is very high, and it's not a good place to go 9 months pregnant." And I don't know why it was me, but the pressures I felt, I just felt like I don't want to miss this. I've worked for so hard. I just have to be there for this. So my husband and I got in an argument. I said I'm going to be okay. I went to Mexico City. There was this huge conference, kind of celebratory conversation, and I then passed out. The amazing thing is no one noticed. No one noticed. I passed out. I was dizzy. Then I sort of made my way dizzy to the bathroom, lay down there for a while, crawled back, got through. So next phase. that was last couple of months at Cleary. I had the baby, then I went on sort of unpaid maternal leave, and then I went, it's funny to, people ask me for advice. I feel like I was so lost in my career for so long. I loved Cleary, but I wasn't sure what I was doing there. The novel didn't work out. Then I wanted to be an academic. My father's an academic. My husband was at Yale, but I wasn't exactly sure what articles I should write, so I started writing about privatization since I'd worked on it. I had a baby. I was going on the teaching market. In the end, I feel like I just got incredibly lucky about what I ended up writing about. And so for those of you who, I don't know, might want to go into academics, write academic books, or for me, it's just the old cliche about you're only going to be able to be good at something that you're genuinely interested in. So I started writing about privatization and nationalization, and I remember still at Yale Law School at the interview where I was trying to get a job teaching there. I was terrifying, old place, 7 older men sitting around the table shooting me questions. I didn't really know how to be an academic at the time, gave all these dumb questions. I was talking about rambling about privatization and nationalization. And at some point, I remember the dean just felt so sorry for me. He started talking about New Haven, Italian influences on New Haven architecture. But then the amazing thing is, while I was bumbling along, one of the professors, who is now my colleague, said to me, he said, "Oh my gosh, I see what you're writing about is the link between markets and ethnicity." And it had never, I thought I was writing about telephone privatization. But I thought, oh my God, markets and ethnicity, yes, that's what I'm writing about. And that became my project. I went to Duke, I got a job. I later introduced democracy, my whole thing became markets, democracy, ethnicity. That was the first book, World on Fire. So, I ended up writing about ethnicity and Chinese minorities, the issue that I would talk about at dinner parties anyway. So that was it's been just a lucky thing in my career. I've had a lot of ups and downs even since then. I started off at Duke Law School, got tenure there, but my husband taught at Yale, so we had to try to close the geographic gap, and that was very difficult. I visited a lot of places, and I got a lot of rejections, just on the merits rejections, where you try your hardest for 6 months to impress people, and then it doesn't work out. So anyway, I got very lucky and ended up at Yale Law School. By the way, that first interview where the guy said, "You're doing markets and ethnicity," that was a great insight, but I didn't get the job. I was rejected from that junior job, but I love Duke. And so then I finally, in 2001, started at Yale. And by then I had 2 kids. And again, being a law professor is different than being a corporate lawyer. You have the summers off, you have a lot more control over your schedule, you don't teach every day. Nonetheless, I do think that there are trade-offs. My husband and I have the same job, but I chose to be sort of the really active parent. I don't know if you've heard obviously, my kids played piano and violin, and I was definitely an involved parent. I felt a lot of insecurity in some ways as a Yale law professor. I made certain choices. I focused on students because I love being with students, and that's a natural fit for me, and I do very well. I feel like I contribute to the institution. On the other hand, another part of being at Yale Law School, a professor, is kind of schmoozing in the hallways, going to lunch with your colleagues, exchanging intellectual ideas, and that's what I gave up. That's what I gave up to pick up my kids at 3:30, to drive them to piano lessons. I had no time. Every second of my day was regimented. And at 3:30, I knew I had to run. Sometimes I had to come back at 6 to finish, or 8 to finish what I left. But that kind of social part. So I didn't feel like I was central at the institution. Again, I love my colleagues, but that's what I gave up. Just not a kind of I think a good colleague, but not really kind of central to the institution, and that was my choice. I had some lonely moments, I would say, both on the work front because of the decisions I made, and on the parenting front because I parent differently than other people. So I've described this kind of strict Chinese parenting as a bit of a closet practice. The one thing I was not insecure about, though, was parenting itself. So I could talk more about that. I think it's just coming from very immigrant parents who were very strict with me, with whom I have a great relationship. So the whole book, Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mother, is how I came into parenting with a very cocky attitude. And I had a very easy first kid. And then Lulu, my second daughter, came along, and I got my comeuppance. Lulu is very similar to me to personality, and even when I was just starting at Yale, she was a little baby, she was always just saying no, rebelling, big personality. To wrap this up, the writing process of Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mother was totally different than my 2 other books. World on Fire took me 10 years of academic research, and every day I sat down. I have generally writer's block. I am very disciplined, get up at 5:30. I would be lucky if I could get a paragraph a day out. But if you work and it's a paragraph every day, the book gets done. And I had a lot of help. Day of Empire took me about 5 years of research. Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mother took me 2 months with 0 research. I don't know, how many of you know the background here, but I started writing the book after my second daughter, Lulu, rebelled. We had always been very close. A lot of people misunderstand what the book is about. It's a memoir. It's actually supposed to be funny. I'm a character in the book. I've always loved books with unreliable narrators, and my two daughters are the heroines. And the book is filled with zany parenting showdowns between my daughters and me. And you will notice if you actually read the book, it's funny that it's never come out in the press, but my daughters always call my bluff and always have the last line. So a lot of the things that you read about in the press, she burned the dollhouse. If you actually read the scene, what happens is it's not anything like that. It's supposed to be this, again, a kind of a zany showdown. So if you don't do this, Lulu, I'm going to take your dollhouse and donate it to the Salvation Army. What does Lulu then say? What are you still doing here, Mommy? I thought you were going to the Salvation Army. That's just the way it always was. So no dollhouse was ever burned. It was just a matter of never being able to sort of be in control of the situation. But and Lulu and I were always very close. But at 13, she did rebel against my strict ways in a very serious manner. And my sister got leukemia at the same time and had to have a bone marrow transplant. So the last third of the book swerves because my life swerves. You know, it suddenly goes very dark. And after one terrible, epic fight in Red Square, Moscow, where, Lulu throws a glass and says, I hate you. You are a terrible mother. You are a selfish mother. You make me feel bad about myself every second. Everything you say you do for me is actually for yourself. Pretty harsh words. I think it's a pretty... The book is self-incriminating. It's a pretty tough indictment, I think. But after that, literally after that fight, I got up the next day, went to my computer, and just started writing this thing. And I showed every page to my husband and two daughters, and they cleared every bit of dialogue. And writing this book was totally different than my other books. It was really a cathartic, almost like bringing the family back together. I feel like going back 18 years, and sort of remembering the person that I was a long time ago, very different than the person I am today, and kind of bringing it to the present moment, I think was sort of a way for me to put the pieces back together, and in some ways to kind of bring my daughters and me back together. So that's really what the book is about. To end the firestorm, Teresa sent a couple of interesting questions. Why are women so often at the center of these polemics? In my case, it's different. I thought a lot about it because I completely did not expect this. I remember my daughters were saying, nobody wants to buy this, is going to buy this book. And my dad said, why would anybody want to read your memoir? You're not a famous person, But I think what happened is I think the book accidentally tapped into two of America's deepest anxieties: fear of parenting and fear of China. Regarding fear of China, as you know, I've said it a million times, the Wall Street Journal excerpted the book, and under the headline, Why Chinese Mothers Are Superior, a headline I never saw, would not have approved. If you see the book, it says the opposite on the cover. I do not believe that. I genuinely believe that there are many ways of being a good mother. So there's the China thing. I do think if the book had been called Battle Hymn of the Albanian Mother, nobody would have cared. On the parenting front, why always this controversy? I mean, this kind of intense reaction. I think that we're all, myself included, incredibly anxious about parenting. We're incredibly insecure, I guess, at some level. We all desperately want to get it right, and none of us know exactly how to do that, right? We don't get report cards. It's like, even if it seems to be going well, how will our kids think of us 20 years from now? And secondly, I think it just feels like the stakes are so high that it's terrifying to admit a mistake. So I think that, to me, I wrote in a recent op-ed, I think that our society's need to ignite these mommy wars and to be so vicious is especially odd, because all you need to do is look around this room, right? And anyone could see that there are so many ways of producing happy, healthy, strong children. I look at my Yale Law students, and some of them have strict parents, some of them have lenient parents, some of them have no parents. And yet, if somebody has a different philosophy about child rearing, we instantly feel judged, and we lash back. Am I close to my time? Couple minutes? Okay, great. And in the op-ed, what I say is I actually draw on my previous book, Day of Empire, and in that book I argued that the secret to America's success always has actually been our openness and tolerance, our ability to absorb the best people, the best idea, the best talent from all over the world. So we won the race for the atomic bomb by harnessing the genius of all these European scientists fleeing Nazi Europe. We achieved high-tech dominance in the 1990s by pulling into Silicon Valley innovative immigrants from Taiwan, Israel, India, Africa, Russia, everywhere. Even in sports, you look at our baseball, soccer, basketball teams, top talent from Central America, Latin America, Europe, Africa, Asia, everywhere. In so many areas, food, business, music, a unique American strength has been our ability to absorb the best of many cultures. Not so when it comes to parenting. When it comes to child rearing, I think we're strangely intolerant, actually. We're strangely not so interested in how other cultures do it. And I think that's odd. And, China is trying to learn from the West right now. They know that their parenting is too strict, too high pressure, too rote. Kids study basically in China from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. We worry about self-esteem here. Their grades are publicly posted from one to the bottom. Practically never heard of play dates and sleepovers. So they know that they want to learn from the West to become more creative, more open, more independent. How do we have their kids kind of have more initiative? And I think a lot of people reading this about China and kind of reacting my book have taken a self-congratulatory stance, which is, see, even the Chinese are abandoning their methods and they're trying to be like us. USA, USA. And I think that this kind of complacency is really misguided. I think that we should follow the same formula that served us so well. We should build on what we do well, keep it, and there's a lot that we do well. We have the best universities in the world. We are good at having our kids be free and independent and creative and irreverent, but we also have a lot of weaknesses. And I think that we should try to incorporate the best of all worlds. So I'm going to just end there. I would say Teresa asked me one question, whether she thought there was a gender component to this. And I had not thought about this before, but it occurred to me because I got this fun email from a former Yankee professional infielder who also became a professional opera singer. And he wrote this really nice blog. But what he kind of, we were talking about, it's you on TV, films, just popular culture. There's so many stories of tough dads, dads that don't sugarcoat, sports dads. In fact, it's funny that 2 hours of violin or math is considered practically abusive because 7 hours of track or football practice or soccer practice is just considered kind of devotion and commitment, and teaching your kids to stick with it and not give up. So the latest thing I was just on 2 days ago, the Bill Maher show, and I had not had anybody, influential anchor or anybody, publicly take my side, so I was thrown off because I was just ready to go in there and defend myself. And he opens with, "I'm with you. America, we're going down the tubes. My dad smacked me." And I tried to stay clear of that, but it was amazing how the whole audience laughed. His dad was tough. His dad smacked him. So I thought it was an interesting. So I'll stop it there and take questions later.